Hi, my name is Evan Freiberger, and this is a video about April 15th, 2022, when a tornado emergency was declared in northeastern Arkansas. At first, it was an unexpected event that happened during a slight risk. Not many people saw it coming, so it was very surprising. And at first, it seemed like there would be lots of death and destruction. But there was more to the story than met the eye. That's why I decided to hop into the car and go to Arkansas to investigate. Now, I must admit, when I first started this journey, I didn't know what to expect. But what you will see in this video is that sometimes a tornado emergency is not what it seems. Hello, everyone. I'm Evan Freiberger, and I'm here in Jonesboro investigating whether or not there was or was not a tornado. Later today, I'm going to be interviewing a couple people at the NWS, or the National Weather Service, Little Rock, Arkansas. And yeah, we will see what's going on. I have an interesting spot. I got to figure out exactly where it is that I want to investigate, and I will keep y'all posted. So yeah, after I got a good night's sleep, hopped into my car, and it was time to start searching for what could or could not potentially be tornado damage. So I set my sights on the first place, and that place was Walnut Ridge. And on the way, I didn't know what to expect. But as I crossed this area, just before Walnut Ridge, I found a church with some hail damage. And this was big hail. Hail, possibly the size of a fist, that hit the side of this church, breaking windows and damaging the vinyl sidings just on one side. The same with the other buildings. But as far as I could tell, there was no tornado damage. So I kept moving on. And I eventually found these downed trees, nearly just across the street from the hail damage. But it was hard to tell whether these trees were caused by a tornado or straight line damaging winds, or whether or not they were down previously before the storm even happened, because around them there was no evidence of a tornado. So I kept on driving, and I ended up going to a small town nearby called Hoaxie, and that brought me to this area right here, where again I found more evidence of hail damage. Same thing, damage to the side and the vinyl of these houses, but again, no evidence of tornadoes. So after this, I decided to keep on driving. And on the way, I ran into this weird pole that was completely destroyed and still standing somehow. But again, around it, as you can see, no tornado damage. No tornado path. Maybe another downed tree here and there, but nothing. So at this point, I was starting to realize that the possibility of there not being a tornado was very likely. So I picked a spot that was near the center of the rotation in Cherokee Village, and this was going to be the last place that I looked. And to be honest, not to my surprise. All I found was 2 downed trees near the center of circulation. But I didn't want to give up yet. Not quite yet. Maybe just beyond the trees, if I could just find a clearing, there would be a tornado path. And no. As you can see here, there was no tornado path. Not one single downed tree. Nothing. So, I decided it was getting a little late. I needed to go to Little Rock and interview the National Weather Service of Little Rock. To be honest, I was a little nervous. This is definitely my first time out interviewing anybody of the status of somebody that works at a federal building in the National Weather Service, but as I arrived to Little Rock, I started understanding how important it was to get to the bottom of this. And as you will see coming up, I got some good answers. So here we go. Hello, my name is Evan Freiberger, and I am a freelance reporter, and I am here at the National Weather Service in Little Rock, talking to Dennis Kavanaugh. And why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. So, my name is Dennis Kavanaugh. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist here at the National Weather Service in Little Rock, and we're going to discuss tornado emergencies and I guess some of the events that happened this last Friday.
All right. So here's the first question. Okay. Can you give me your perspective on what events led to the decision to issue a tornado emergency, and what are the contributing factors that were considered in making this decision?
Sure. So, in general, to issue a tornado emergency, we have some criteria that are expected to be met. The first one is that we have confirmation of a tornado. That could be radar confirmation, that is seeing debris on radar, or a storm spotter report of a confirmed tornado. And if we know that tornado is headed for, basically if it poses a threat to human life, so if it's headed for any town, then we can go ahead and issue a tornado emergency if we think the tornado is large enough, strong enough, dangerous enough that it's that it could result in casualties. So those were the facts that we were presented with Friday evening. Radar data supported a rotation. We did not see debris on radar, but the radar is hitting up about 11,000 feet at the location that the storm was moving through at that time. But we had several reports of a confirmed tornado, and so that's what led us to go ahead and basically upgrade the tornado warning to a tornado emergency, because we felt that people's lives were in danger in Northeast Arkansas.
Awesome, thank you. Now knowing that your NWS office has stated yesterday that they do not believe a tornado touched down Friday, is there anything that you would do differently in the future?
Well, so myself and one of my colleagues, we went out and we actually surveyed looking for tornado damage or any damage at all the way from Fulton County southeast through Cherokee Village and into Lawrence County, into the Walnut Ridge and Hoxie area. And we found evidence of straight line winds. We found lots of evidence of damage from wind-driven hail, but we did not find any evidence at all of a tornado, of any circulation that was in contact with the ground. So from what we understand, some of these reports were initiated by people that were maliciously sending out false reports, spoofing their lat lawn and putting out reports that sound credible, and those reports sort of act like an echo chamber. So once those reports get out there, it's during the night. It's hard for people to see. People go outside, they hear that there's a tornado. They go outside and look at the clouds. They see a low-hanging cloud. and because somebody else has reported a tornado, they think they're seeing the same thing, so they also report it. And so that echo chamber continues, and that gets back to us at the Weather Service, where we get multiple reports of a confirmed tornado. We see a very strong circulation with a very well organized supercell on radar, and we know it's headed for populated areas. So that information is what led to us issuing the tornado emergency. But in the future, what we want to do is find a way to eliminate those false reports. Now, people making reports that are honestly, mistaken, that happens. That happens all the time. And, we have to deal with that. We've dealt with that for decades. But people intentionally making false reports, causing other people to believe that there's a threat that isn't real. It's against federal law to do that, because it puts people's lives in danger, not because there's a tornado at the time, but because it reduces people's belief and trust in the warning system. And if we issue tornado warnings in the future, or tornado emergencies, and people don't believe the threat is real because of prior experiences, that's what puts people's lives in danger. So we could issue perfect tornado warnings and tornado emergencies from here on out, and if people don't trust it, they're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to take shelter, and that's going to lead to casualties. So we're really going to investigate to see if there's a way we can put an end to these maliciously false reports.
Thank you. Does the NWS Little Rock ask for names of spotters when they receive spotter reports? And what is the criteria you use to authenticate spotter reports?
So typically when we receive a storm spotter report, at least with our spotter network, the storm spotters that we train, some states use spotter IDs. We just use people's first and last names as their identification. So if somebody calls us, we certainly do ask for their name, but it's not always possible in real time to verify that there's somebody that's been trained by us. We keep people's information in our system for 3 years, but if they've attended storm spotter training at any time, they're still valid storm spotters. But if they haven't taken a recent course or haven't filled out information to stay in our system, we may not have their name on file. So there are storm spotters that we routinely receive reports from, and of course that we trust those names significantly more than we trust a storm spotter we've never heard of before. And we also work very closely with our partners in the emergency management community, the broadcast media, trained storm spotters, of course, ham radio operators, law enforcement, and volunteer firefighters. We all work together to try to communicate the same message at the same time in this network, the social network that we call the Integrated Warning Team. So while the National Weather Service is officially responsible for issuing warnings, we know that to effectively communicate those warnings to the public, it relies on effective and consistent communication between all of those Integrated Warning Team partners in order to increase trust in those warnings and to make the warnings as accurate as possible and to reach as many people as possible. Because we know most people do not get warnings directly from the National Weather Service. They get it from their local television station via an app, maybe their weather emergency alerts on their cell phone. They're usually getting it from a secondary source of information, which is fine, but that's why we work so hard on those non-severe weather days to nurture those relationships with those partners so that when we do have those severe weather days, everybody's saying the same thing at the same time, and we're getting reports from people we've met in person. We've shaken hands with, we've talked to them, we know who they are, and that gives we rely on those reports significantly more than we do storm spotters we've never heard from before. But again, when reports get out there, if they're maliciously reported, we're not in control of. We may not react to that initial report, but other people that see the report may believe it, and that may cause them to report the same thing. Because, again, if it's nighttime, if they can't tell for sure what they're seeing, but somebody else has reported a tornado, they're more predisposed to think that a low-hanging cloud is a tornado because they've heard it from somebody else. And so that's, in psychology or social science, that's something we call confirmation bias. And it is a very real human behavior. There's nothing malicious about confirmation bias. The malicious part is the person that initiated the report of a false tornado. Once that gets bounced around, people go outside, they look, they see a low-hanging cloud that looks like a tornado. They are honestly reporting what they think they're seeing, but their observation is tainted or biased by the previous report of somebody that has said that there's a confirmed tornado. So we all have to work together to find out who's putting these malicious reports out there. We have to, due to COVID, we haven't been able to see each other face to face in a couple of years now. So we need more FaceTime. We need to, get out there in the public and physically in person train storm spotters, give them refreshers. And we need to weed out these bad actors so that they can't, put false reports out there in the future so that, we're not issuing warnings on bad information.
Awesome. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here and interview you, and giving us a great explanation on what happened on Friday, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
The actual archived radar data from our radar, Friday evening, and this was the supercell as it moved from basically along the Missouri-Arkansas border, southeast into Fulton County. And so the yellow box there, those are severe thunderstorm warnings. And the red box, when it appears, that's a tornado warning.
Right.
And let me see. So this is the rotation. So we could see moving out of Missouri, there was a weak rotation, but then it started to tighten up.
Yep.
So that's what caused us to issue the initial tornado warning, is simply the radar appearance. It's
almost looks
it's
like
a big
there's two.
supercell. Yeah, it does. It almost looks like there's two circulations, and it could be a merger of two supercells. We're so far away from the radar here, it's hard to know exactly
into the
what's going on.
atmosphere.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is I don't know if radar this tells us, but yeah, so we're at 11,400 feet above ground here.
Right, so
when
this
we're
is
looking at
mid-level circulation.
Yeah, and this is
on the
our
ground,
this is our lowest available scan,
which is what
So-
you would have expected from these storms, right?
Right.
Not to be able to initiate on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, we we know that all we can see is the mid-level mesocyclone, but again, you can see this. Well, it was a gate-to-gate circulation, but you can see this persistent rotation here, these persistent inbounds, and then the persistent outbounds, and then these persistent inbounds here, telling us that there's some sort of tight rotation. And at this point, this is where the tornado emergency gets issued.
That's near Henderson.
So this is near.
No, that's past Henderson.
Yeah, so this is near Salem.
So that was definitely an what we call an SLC.
Right.
Scary looking cloud.
Yeah.
Over Henderson for sure.
And so.
Did it even go over Henderson? No.
Yeah, it
really.
did. So there's
Kind of.
Henderson.
Yeah.
At the time it was over Henderson, I mean it had. I mean it's hard to say if that's a hook. Or, again, you're shooting up 11,000 feet.
Right.
You're 2 miles up in
Yeah.
the atmosphere. So seeing trying to call that a hook echo is
Maybe you
stretching
could call
it.
it a meso. Maybe.
Yeah, you could probably call the circulation
Because if it's that
a
high up
meso.
and next to it like that, then
Yep.
maybe. But the rotation.
And
not even
so
there.
there's a report of thunderstorm wind damage. So reports of shop building destroyed.
Right.
So that's
Dude, was
one
that-
of the reports
Was that
we
ever
got.
confirmed?
No, we surveyed the area and we could not find evidence of that.
You know, I bet you what it was. You know, there's a lot driving on that road. A bunch of old farm buildings that are like falling over.
That's true.
You gotta
And somebody could have
Yeah, they could have seen that.
seen that at night and seen the storm nearby and just assumed that a barn that was already destroyed was from that storm. You're right. That's very possible because there are lots and lots of old barns and farm equipment in general out there. So we received that report of thunderstorm wind damage. Then this is a report of 4-inch hail. So that was an indication that we had some giant hail associated with this storm. And then again, we see this circulation here as it moves towards Salem. There was, I don't think we issued an LSR, but there was a report of somebody seen an observed tornado, and I think we'll start to see the local storm reports come in here. Well, maybe archive radar data is not picking them up. Oh, there's a couple. So you can see.
So I drove through Cherokee Village. There is a tree down in Cherokee Village but there's a little river that goes very close to. It's like literally almost goes over the road.
Right. Yeah.
But like right near there, I found a tree down there that was uprooted. But like there's nothing else around it.
No, and and this says tin roof from house blown across the street to gas station. Hitting the gas pump.
And I drove on that road.
Yeah, we drove from Highland through Hardy in Cherokee Village, and again we didn't see this. Now it says the source of this is Train Spotter. So again I don't know. They called it a tornado. Then there's another report of a tornado come in. Spotter reported a wedge tornado on the ground in golf ball size hail, moving through Hardy.
Wow.
Now. This is north of the circulation, so the circulation is south here, near Highland. But again, you're getting a report, and this is very likely a malicious report of somebody saying there's a wedge tornado. Since we had already confirmed that there was hail, somebody saying there's a wedge tornado and there's hail. It makes it more believable because we already know that yes, there was significantly large hail associated with this storm, and again, all we can see aloft is this circulation, but again, we're 11,000 feet off the ground, and so there's another report. Tops of trees ripped off near homes in Highland, and again, this was supposedly a social media report. And then that's where I stopped that batch of radar data. But I have it all. I can go further.
If you could go to Walnut Ridge, that would be.
Yeah.
I think wasn't there like this one point when it looked like there was a circulation spinning off back into the
yeah, like some kind of occlusion.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that it wasn't a damaging tornado.
Oh,
because I drove through there.
Yeah,
that would have been devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it went right over a mobile home park in Hoxie. How do you say that?
Yep.
That was where we found some really significant. Oh, did I go too late now? Oh my gosh.
Nope.
Yeah, it's way. Okay. So it's got to be somewhere in between here.
Yeah, I think it happened in between.
And here we go.
6:50 and like 8. Wow. That is some high DBZs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're.
Even in like the supposed hook, I guess that would be was that a rear flanking downdraft?
I mean, this could be a rear flank downdraft, but again, that high up, it's so hard
wind
to know.
damage to really back that up.
Yeah, you're right. There weren't many trees knocked down. The wind damage really manifested itself in driving hail into homes. That's what
That was so
really
scary.
caused.
I've never seen it. Although it could also be I I didn't see much hail damage in Cherokee Village, but I think that's because of the way that the houses were built. Like I think on the roofs, I could kind of tell that there was like shingles missing, but in those neighborhoods near Walnut Ridge and Hoxie, they have like this vinyl siding.
Yeah,
and so when that
and
hail
it punches
slammed,
right through that vinyl.
There was even one of those "Vote for Me" signs, and it had hail right through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's even if it's 60, 70 mile per hour winds blowing golf ball size hail, it's going to put some holes in things.
Yeah.
And so, this is just a radar algorithm, but it's estimating over 2-inch hail, which was verified in this case.
Yeah.
That doesn't always work, but
I was so tempted
that
to
was
knock on
accurate in
doors
this
and be like,
case.
did anybody put any hail into their freezers?
Right. And again, you see this persistent circulation, and it's headed.
So how high are we up now?
We are still at 11,200 feet, and so
I mean, all you can rely on is the eyes on the ground at that point.
Yeah, another report of confirmed tornado on the ground west of Black Rock, and this one came from law enforcement. So, again, it's not all bad actors sending in reports here, and that's what makes. It just takes one or two bad reports to start to convince everybody else downstream that what they see is a tornado. And so you get law enforcement who's obviously not going to intentionally lie about what they're seeing. And then there's two more reports of a tornado. Walnut Ridge, reports of cars flipped off the highway, which was real, but it happened to be due to hail accumulation, not wind damage. The hail accumulated so much on the roads that it was 2 or 3 inches deep, and so that's like 2 or 3 inches of sleet in a winter storm. We'd be issuing a winter storm warning for it. So that's essentially what they were driving through, but it was hail accumulated from the supercell, and I believe there were 2 rear wheel drive vehicles that hit the hail, and maybe the wind caused them to try to correct their steering a bit, and that caused them to spin and then flip off into a ditch. But again, at the time, we have no idea what's causing. Nobody was able to tell us that it's hail or ice that caused the cars to flip off the road. We just had reports of cars flipped off the road. So it's just more confirmation that, hey, this is serious.
Yeah.
This is a big tornado headed for Walnut Ridge, Hoxie, and then again, you finally get emergency manager reports of portable buildings partially destroyed and scattered siding from structures and vehicles blown from the roadway.
I saw a metal roof in the middle of the field,
and so there
driving up there, but I was like, that isn't. There's nothing else around it, no other debris.
Yeah,
there's just a metal roof randomly in the middle of the field. Like, it's like, okay, that's not part.
Probably
not even part of the storm.
There was one mobile home that had its roof blown off, but the reason why its roof was blown off is it was they had their home set up in a way to where it was one of the only mobile homes that had sort of like a covered porch on top, and then
was it Jimmy rigged?
Yeah, and then they had the roof, but then they had another roof elevated above it, so the wind got in between there, and it ripped the porch off, which caused the whole roof to rip off and then get shredded apart. Yeah, so it was all bolted to the roof, so once the porch went, it ripped the whole rest of the roof with it, and so the debris was real, but again, it was just circumstantial. It was the only mobile home that was built like that. All the mobile homes that weren't altered, that didn't have a porch on them, they didn't lose any roofing.
Fine.
So it was just because that person, went through the effort to try to, again, build like a covered porch in front of their mobile home that happened to catch the wind and grab it. Since it was bolted to the roof, it just took off with the roof. And nobody inside got hurt, luckily, but even that mobile home was pelted with hail, on the sides of it.
Probably on the top after the roof came off.
Oh yeah, I'm sure lots of hail got inside once
Under
the
the
roof
table
came
when
off.
that
Yeah,
happens.
lots of hail and water as well.
Man, that's
But again, you can see these reports and this persistent
Yeah,
circulation.
that really big spike there of hail went right over Hoxie.
Yep.
You could tell it like shifts.
Yeah, and it's we're talking almost 80 dBz
Yeah.
at that point. At
Yeah, it went
again
up-
at
there was an-
11,400 feet, so about 2 miles up in the atmosphere. And so that was the basis of the tornado emergencies as they as they moved away from Walnut Ridge and Hoxie into this is the border between our county warning area and Memphis's.
Yeah.
And so even Memphis, based on the reports they were getting upstream,
Yeah.
they went ahead with their own tornado emergency because this is headed for Brooklyn and it's headed on the northern suburbs of Jonesboro there.
Right.
So it impacted them as well, and then they get a report of wind damage. Trees and power lines were knocked down along County Road 780. I mean, that's not a huge report, like a significant
Right.
report, but again, it just adds more credence to, hey, this is a big tornado. This is going on. But again, Memphis's radar is here. Ours is here. Springfield's is out here. Paducah's is here. So all of them are about, they're hit the lowest elevation. They're hitting anywhere from 10 to 12,000 feet up in the storm. So the lowest 1.5 to 2 miles of the thunderstorm we can't see on radar.
Wow.
And so that's why, up in this area, we rely heavily on storm spotter reports and law enforcement and emergency managers to supplement what we see on radar with ground truth so that we can issue accurate warnings. And based on the information we had at the time, we felt that's what we were doing. We were genuinely concerned that this was going to be a mass casualty event based on the reports we were receiving. And so when my colleague and I, when we went out on Saturday, I mean, we surveyed for 11 hours, I think. And, we looked everywhere. We were going down dirt roads and neighborhoods just trying to see if there was any evidence of a tornado. And like you said, occasionally we'd see a tree down, but usually those trees were rotted, and so there wasn't much indication of widespread wind damage. Most of the damage was from wind-driven hail into structures. So, and not to minimize that, those people, that still probably is, along that path, we're still probably talking, at least $1 million of property damage, but it's from wind-driven hail, not from a large tornado.
Yeah.
So, and luckily, we don't want a large tornado. That's not the point of this. But we thought that's what was going on based on the information that we had at the time, which seemed reasonable.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But that's
I would have
again,
made. See,
that's where one or two bad reports can kick off an echo chamber to where, whenever everybody else that goes to look at it, even though they have the best of intentions, they are public safety officials. They see a very low cloud. It's nighttime. They've heard reports of a tornado, so they think they're seeing a tornado, and so they report it, and that just gives the initially false report more validity as it continues to move through populated areas. So unfortunately, and oftentimes we don't get reports of damage or hear of significant structural damage until an hour or two after a storm has passed. Because
Trust me, I know.
because first responders are there first,
like crazy.
and then we hear the information.
Yep.
So that doesn't help us after the fact. So during the overnight hours when we weren't receiving any pictures or significant reports of damage, we started to get concerned that what happened? Where were all these reports of tornadoes coming from? Like what did it hit?
Right.
Or is it just because it's nighttime that we're not getting reports? Will we find it during the day? And my colleague and I, we left that morning, and again, we
we scoured the whole path of the supercell and its rotational track, and wind-driven hail was the worst thing that we found. So, yeah, I mean, we're very
Thank
happy
goodness.
nobody was injured or killed, but again, we don't want to water down the warning system, because people in the path of this, we issue a tornado emergency. We don't want them to think that in the future there's no threat.
Right.
So that's why we don't want to issue tornado emergencies when there's not a tornado. There's nothing in it for us to do this. We don't get paid by the click or by the like, or we're just a public safety organization. That's it. We're paid for by taxpayer dollars, and our only mission is to protect life and property from hazardous weather. So that's all we do. That's our only motivation. And it's unfortunate when we get bad information and take action on it.
Yeah.
So
I think it's personally better to be safe than sorry.
I agree.
And I totally agree with y'all's decision here.
Sure.
So
It's-
and there's a lot of people that are not particularly as educated as somebody like yourself with the degree,
Right.
That obviously don't agree with us, but
Well,
in
But you can see from their point of view, we issued a tornado emergency and there was no tornado.
No,
And
right.
That's where the doubt
Yeah.
starts to creep in.
Well,
And
what I
that's
was saying-
what we need to stop.
Yeah, what I was saying is that they would appreciate it though
Oh yeah.
if they were
Right.
in your coverage area. I
Yes.
mean, these are people from all over the country that are
Oh,
online, right?
I got you.
Right.
Yeah, not necessarily people in the path of
Right.
the storm, but people commenting from
Exactly.
other. I got you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're working with the tools that you've got, and
Yeah,
I
we
feel
are.
like you guys are doing the best you can, and no one's perfect, right?
Yeah. No, that's
You know?
true. I mean, radar's great, but it obviously has its. Except for Lance.
He's perfect.
He's perfect. But he wasn't working that night. So. But yeah, I mean, radar is great, but it has its limitations, and the only thing we can do to, buffer those limitations is have a relationship with people in those areas, and we do have a good relationship with those emergency managers and law enforcement, volunteer firefighters, and again, once information gets into that social networking system, people look outside, they see something that looks dangerous, and it gets repeated because there's confirmation bias
Yep.
involved in that.
Yep.
So
All right. Well, thank you.
yeah,
Thank
no
you
problem.
for going over this. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
And everybody else
Oh sure.
that watches this, I don't know how it will do, but
Oh.
hopefully enough people see this to know that NWS Little Rock knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we-
not to question you guys.
Yeah, we take reports seriously, and we are going to
Yeah.
pursue and try
Heard a
to find
tornado
out
warning, take
who's
shelter.
putting out bad information.
Right.
We're going to try to stop them. I mean, we are not. We can't arrest people, obviously, but we can provide information
Well,
to
we are
officials
recording.
that may be able to take action.
Oh.
So, we're going to investigate and do the best we can to try to limit or eliminate these, these maliciously bad reports. Mistakes are always going to happen.
Yeah.
But maliciously false reports, again, it's against federal law. It's a felony to put those out there. So we are very interested, and I think a whole lot of other people are also very interested in tracking these individuals down. And if we can find them, to have the proper authorities prosecute them for doing so.
Well, we will do our best.
Sure.
Because I'm working on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity you've given me to discuss this with your viewers and whoever picks up your story.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was
Thanks.
nice meeting you, Dennis.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, there my business card's right there. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to. It's got my cell phone number on it, so give me a call or shoot me an email.
Yeah,
and-
man. I might even just call you for general weather and
Sure.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear something, I want to learn it from the best. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, just let me know.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to help.
All right.
All right.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.